In the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood studios pulled out all the stops to captivate audiences and keep their stars in the limelight. Behind the glitz and glamour, there was a different kind of magic at play: the art of the publicity stunt. From jaw-dropping spectacles to outrageous schemes, these publicity stunts were a secret ingredient to Hollywood's success. But not all of these stunts were elaborate setups, nor limited to Hollywood. In this episode, we'll explore one sudden, unplanned event that helped catapult a Hollywood ingénue into a new star by taking advantage of a rising politician, with the result being one of the most memorable publicity stunts in Hollywood history. When people think of publicity stunts, they often think of the elaborate, planned spectacles, such as when Universal Studios needed to generate buzz for their next horror installment, Dracula's Daughter. In the sweltering summer of 1936, the people of Pittsburgh were about to witness a horror show unlike any other. The main event? A midnight show held in conjunction with a local department store. The setup? A hapless actress, chosen for her pale complexion, is strapped to an operating table on theater's stage. When the film begins to roll and the film's star, Gloria Holden, appears on screen, the actress on stage rises. Pittsburgh was about to be overrun by the undead. Not many of them, however, ran to the theater. The film was a box office disappointment. One of the more outrageous stunts was for another Universal picture, the 1947 Fred MacMurray-Claudette Colbert screwball comedy, The Egg and I. In order to drum up coverage for the film, studio press agent Jim Moran went to an LA ostrich farm and actually sat on an ostrich egg for 19 days until it hatched. He was rewarded with an elaborate spread in Life magazine highlighting the film, which was a box office success resulting in 9 spin-off films featuring the Ma and Pa Kettle characters. But not all stunts were ostrich-sized. Some were as simple as the whispers of a well-timed romance. Take the case of Bette Davis and her co-star George Brent. It was thought that Warner Brothers planted rumors of an affair between the two during the filming of 1939's Dark Victory. The gossip columns couldn't get enough, and neither could the fans. The movie soared at the box office and landed Davis an Oscar nomination, proving that sometimes whisper campaigns are indeed effective and lucrative. Davis herself was at the top of box office attraction and served as a role model for many up-and-coming actresses, including a young Betty Joan Persky, soon to be known as Lauren Bacall. In 1943, a single photograph changed everything for Bacall. Her striking look caught the eye of Diana Vreeland, fashion editor of Harper's Bazaar, who then featured Bacall on the cover of the magazine. That image found its way into the hands of one of Hollywood's most influential directors, Howard Hawks, who was on the lookout for fresh talent to star opposite Humphrey Bogart in his upcoming film, To Have and Have Not. 19-year-old Bacall was summoned to Hollywood for a screen test. Their on-screen dynamic was palpable, and Hawks knew he had struck gold. Bacall's performance in To Have and Have Not was nothing short of mesmerizing. Her sultry voice and smoldering presence captivated audiences, and she wound up delivering one of the most iconic lines in film history.
You know you don't have to act with me, Steve. You don't have to say anything, and you don't have to do anything. Not a thing. Oh, maybe just whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
On October 11th, 1944, To Have and Have Not premiered in New York at Warner's Hollywood Theater and broke records. The onstage chemistry between Bogart and Bacall was palpable and audiences loved it. Rumors of a real-life romance followed, but the couple had to be very careful. Bogart was still a married man. Less than a month later, on November 7, 1944, a pivotal moment in American history took place as voters went to the polls during the height of World War II. Franklin Roosevelt sought an unprecedented fourth term, and Roosevelt's running mate was Harry Truman, a relatively little-known senator from Missouri, who had been chosen to replace Vice President Henry Wallace on the Democratic ticket. Truman's reputation for integrity and effectiveness, particularly as the chairman of the Senate War Investigating Committee, helped solidify public trust in the administration. The election saw Roosevelt and Truman win decisively, as voters demonstrated confidence in their leadership amidst the challenges of the war. After he became vice president on January 20, 1945, Truman had relatively little to do in terms of official duties. His role was largely ceremonial, as was typical for vice presidents at the time, and offered few opportunities for significant influence or involvement in daily governmental decisions. Truman was not included in many of the inner workings of Roosevelt's administration, as FDR already had a tight-knit group of advisors. In fact, Truman had little knowledge of the war strategy, especially in regards to the development of the atomic bomb and other critical wartime issues. Also on Inauguration Day, To Have and Have Not had its nationwide release. Bacall had a lot riding on this film. She was an unknown actress with a single shot at stardom. Warner Brothers had big plans for their new star, and they pulled out all the stops to ensure To Have and Have Not was a smash hit. The studio's publicity machine went into overdrive, and Bacall was at the center of it all. One of the first steps was getting Bacall's face in front of the public. Her striking look and captivating presence made her a natural for magazine covers. From Harper's Bazaar to Life magazine, Bacall was everywhere. These covers weren't just about promoting a movie, they were about introducing a new star to the world. Long before he became vice president, Harry Truman was a young boy in Missouri with a passion for music. Even as he embarked on a career in politics, Truman never abandoned his love for the piano. On the campaign trail, he would often find a piano and play for his staff and supporters. It was a way for him to connect with people on a personal level, showcasing a side of him that was both relatable and endearing. On February 10, 1945, Bacall, who was in New York with Bogart, was pressured by Jack Warner to make a solo trip to Washington to support the war effort. She relented and traveled to D.C. with Warner press agent Charlie Enfield. She was invited to the National Press Club, which during the war hosted any enlisted serviceman on Saturdays who wanted to stop by for all the free beer they could drink. Crowds could sometimes reach 700 or more. Politicians could stop by, but they were reportedly limited to no more than 2-minute speeches. Truman, who had only been vice president for a few weeks, was also in attendance that day, and would play the piano instead of talking. He told his wife Bess he was going to entertain the troops at an all-men's club. What could possibly happen? Bacall described the events in her autobiography. The club was jammed that day. Vice President Truman was coming over. When he was introduced, after me, he sat down to play the piano, which had conveniently been placed on stage. Charlie, who was standing to one side of the floor, edged toward me on the corner of the stage and said, "Get on the piano." I felt a bit silly, but I did it. Cameras started flashing. The vice president and I exchanged a few words, and the resulting pictures hit the front pages all over the world in a few days. Charlie Enfield was worth every cent and more that Warner paid him. Truman was not wild about the picture after he became president, but I loved it. Someone not enthralled with the publicity was Bess Truman. According to Truman biographer David McCullough, she was furious and told him he should play the piano in public no more. The following week, Truman declined to be photographed at a conference on Crimea with a whiskey in hand, since he had been, quote, having trouble with photographs lately, and called the Bacall photo regrettable. However, many people think the photo helped both Truman and Bacall. Some refer to it as one of the first viral photos. One of the things that did not endure was the piano in the National Press Club. Through the years, so many people got on top of it to recreate the photo that the cabinet collapsed and had to be replaced. It can still be found now, though, at the National Press Club's Truman Lounge and is one of the club's most popular attractions. The Truman-Bacall encounter also led to the club's no photography rule in the members-only area, a policy still in effect today. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment below.